Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Holly and I make sewing and fashion videos, and today's video I'm talking through my latest make, this beautiful satin dress. I put it up on my Instagram yesterday, like the reveal reel. I'll add it in at some point if you want to see it. Yeah, and I've had so many requests of how to make this dress and to talk about it, so I thought I'd make a YouTube video. It's in the heat wave in England at the minute, so this is why I'm filming in my bedroom, not in my sewing room next door because that is too hot and too dark, so I'm trying to keep it cool in there. So this dress I wore for my graduation. I graduated with a 2-1 in fashion design from UCA, and my graduation was not last week, the weekend before. So I wanted to make my dress. I was umming and ahhing for ages if I was going to make it, if I had time to make it. So I bought some other dresses as a backup making my dress. I had the fabric already, but I just didn't know what type of dress I wanted to make. Basically, I had no inspiration. So I decided, because I wanted to make a whole new dress, but then I decided just to make a pattern that I'd already drafted and already made. And it worked out really well, and I'm really glad that I did. So this is the dress that I wore to my graduation. I made it full length. It was just above my ankles for my shoes. Now that I think was a little bit long for graduation. I was umming and ahhing on the length and stuff. I loved it to wear, but with your gown and everything, it was a lot of fabric going on. But as a dress, I love it. So let's talk about the fabric that I use. I got this fabric from the new craft house. I saw it and I just thought I really loved it. And I had a graduation dress in mind, and this was back in March, February. So I don't know why I left it to the day before to make my dress when I've had the fabric that long. But anyway, projects come up, don't they? So yes, I bought it from New Craft House. I want to say, I can't remember exactly how much it is. If it's still available, I'll leave it linked down below, but I probably am assuming it's gone because New Craft House just have dead stock, and once it's gone, it's gone. But they have lots of high quality fabrics that are similar, so I'll still leave them linked down below because it's a great place to get fabric from. Now, because it was online, I printed off the details. I always do that because also of New Craft House, once the fabric's in, it's gone, and then I kind of forget what the composition was of the fabric and then how to wash it, because it's so high quality designer fabric. Sometimes it can be a little bit more, you've got to look after the fabric a little bit more than your average cotton or viscose. So yes, I printed it off. So this is dusky pink, a viscose creped back satin, and it definitely feels like that. It's got the weight of a satin and the lightness of a viscose, but you can definitely feel that it's a crepe at the same time. It's got that tiny bit of texture on it, and it's got the satin. It's like a beautiful shine, which photographs really well. The images that I put on Instagram and filmed of it, it looks really good. Let me bring it a little bit more forward. Oh, that's better. So you can see the texture of the fabric. Here we go. So yeah, lovely shine satin, and you've got that slight crepe texture, and you can see it's got a bit of weight to it as well, especially on the bottom frill. You can see the weight. It has a tiny bit of stretch. What stretch does it get? 5% stretch, which, yeah, it came a little, I would have preferred it without the stretch, but I just really love the fabric. So yeah, so that is the fabric, and it was £7 for half a metre, so £14 a metre, and I think I used 2.5 metres, 2 metres. I literally got everything out of this dress that I could possibly get out of. There was like a tiny bit of scrap left over. I'm 5'5.5", so I'm not tall and I'm not super short. So this is its width was 127 wide, so a decent width, and it is made out of viscose and acetate. So that's actually what's in it, so it is breathable. That's what I always print off. If you buy from New Craft House, print the details off, and it's a lot more easier to remember what's in the fabric. And also sometimes I make a fabric swatch box just to remind myself what the fabric is. So let's talk about how this dress is constructed. So I've made this pattern before. This is my own self-drafted pattern that I am working on to release it as a pattern at some point soon, but I have self-drafted it completely. So how we've got a gathered neckline. Let me bring that a little bit closer again so you can see. Yeah, gathered neckline. We have a casing here which holds to, isn't it? So yeah, so you can see here, so this is the neck here, and the back is the same type of casing. It's not identical to the front because it's cut to fit your shoulders, not around the bust. So yeah, we've got the casing that runs along here. And then on this one, I've made a few different versions of this before where I had the tie at the back here or a bow on the side. But I literally, because I had made a bow, but then it was a little bit too much of what's going on. So I just made the tie detail here, and then I just tucked in the ties down the back here. So it made it a little bit more seamless and yeah, not so much going on. Again, because I thought it's my graduation, I'm gonna be wearing a gown, where normally you wouldn't be wearing a gown over your dress in everyday life. Yeah, so that's the front. And then we go down to this buckle. Now I wanted to cinch my waist in. I didn't want it all flowing out, which some of the dresses I have made, I've got that look, but for this, against my graduation, I wanted to keep my body structure, a bit more shape to it. So I decided to put a belt on. Now I didn't want a tie belt because I thought it would, you know, be a bit, this is a formal occasion and I think a tie is always a bit more casual looking. So I had this amazing vintage buckle that I bought at a vintage fair. I just saw it and I thought, well, I'm going to keep that for something because it's going to go really nicely with a project at some point. And I was right. So it's this gold buckle, and this is actually like pearl here, and I basically weave it in and out here, and then it goes all the way around nice and seamlessly. So that looks really lovely. I think we've got such a lovely texture gathered here into the belt. Now the belt took a little bit of thinking of how I'm going to secure the belt all together so it doesn't pop off. That was like my fear, that my belt was going to fly off when I was walking over the graduation stage. And I wanted it seamless. So what I did basically, this side here, I need to unpin it here. This side is looped under here and stitched together. So I basically looped the fabric round and stitched it in. And then this side is the end of the belt here. And I basically woven it in because this belt goes under, over, under, over. And so then when it got to this side, hopefully we can see, maybe a little bit forward, I've hand stitched in poppers. So then the popper pops together in the inside to make it nice and secure. It pops in like that, so it's all secured. I've got 3 poppers in there, and you turn it back over, adjust it so you've got this nice sort of gathering detail so you can't see where the join is or the fabric pushing underneath. And there we go, that's how I made the belt. Right, so I've pulled her nice and tall so I can talk about the length. So this goes all the way down, and then at the bottom, I originally didn't add the frill on the bottom. I had it as a midi kind of knee length dress, which wasn't sitting very well on my legs. I think the colour was too pale for my legs, basically. They sort of went into each other. So I decided to add a little bit more detail. It needed something else, you know, when something just needs a little bit of something different and more. So that's why I added in this gathered frill. This was literally the amount of fabric that I had left. So I gathered it up, put it on the bottom of the hem, and then tried it on, and it worked out where I wanted the dress to come to. And luckily then I cut a little bit off and it worked out quite well, but it needed that little bit of something. And then it adds a little bit more texture, movement when we're moving, walking, and then also some weight to the bottom of the dress, which then cinches it all in and then makes it fall really nicely. So that worked out really well. So the main seams on this dress, we got 2 side seams are the main seamage of this dress. And so because I wanted that luxury kind of feel to it, I finished everything off with a French seam. It just adds something really nicely. There we go. So it's nice and enclosed. So if you saw inside the dress, it's, yeah, you can't see. It all blends in as well. So they haven't got any, it's got 1 line of stitching, which I did in like a very, very light pink white colour I had, which matched quite well. And I think it always just gives a nice look. So I'm going to turn the dress inside out now and share what it looks like inside. Here's a close-up of the belt buckle. That's what it looks like without the fabric threaded through. It has got a little buckle bit here, which I didn't use. I literally just pushed down to the bottom. And I thought it just looks really lovely. Like, it almost matches perfectly with the fabric. So this is the belt, a little bit more up close. I rolled over the fabric. It was rolled over and then rolled over again here, and it's stitched in here. Really, it's quite a lot of stitching, just purely because I wanted it to be secure, and I thought no one's seeing that inside. If I wasn't so paranoid about it pinging open, I probably wouldn't have done as many stitches. And then inside you've got the poppers that run down here on that side. And then I also turned over the belt, so it also gave this a really nice, so when it was ruched together, it kind of worked and matched with the ruching gathered fabric here. So yeah, and then we get down to the other side. That's the end of the belt, and that's them stitched in. You can really see my stitches, but again, I really was wanting to be secure. That's why I put 3 poppers. I think 3 poppers, I didn't need 3 poppers, but I'm glad I put them on. So yeah, so then that's the end, and then you just literally loop that through and then pop your poppers up like that. And then they sit inside like that, so you can't see it. So then anyway, that's the belt in more detail. That's how much fabric I would try on the dress, but it's so hot. I'll add in some clips now or photos of me wearing the dress, so you have a bit more of an idea of what it looks like on. But yeah, there we go, that's a little bit more of the movement. Now, because this armhole is on the bias, it's likely to stretch, where it stretches so easily if you're on the bias, and also there is a risk when you're hemming it, you can stretch it again and then it can fray around, and it's not very secure, it's not strong. Because you're on the bias here, it's not that strong, it needs to be reinforced in some way. So I decided to use facings. So I use a facing here. This is your facing here. A facing is a section of fabric that goes inside normally a neckline, again, as I was saying, to give structure, support, and it's just, yeah, you can enclose the seams, so you don't need to hem, you can stitch it down instead. So yeah, so this is the facing. So I got facing on all 4, 2 at the front, and the back has facings as well, because again, they're all on the bias. So for this facing, because my fabric had stretch in it, which was not ideal, I wouldn't make this dress in a stretch again with this pattern, purely because it needs to be a non-stretch fabric. But because I did have a tiny 5% of stretch, I needed to stop that stretching. So I used interfacing, a heavy interfacing on these facings. Can we see the inside? Yeah, there we go. Use a white interfacing to really help support this line even more. And then, because I like detail, I then bound the edge of the facing in this pink binding, which again gave structure and support to this on the bias. I was debating if I needed to add extra bias in this seam here, the actual neckline seam, but it was okay. If I thought that it needed a little bit more structure, I would have just added some more bias binding or cotton tape down the seam, and that really would give more support to the bias cut. So that's that. That is also then stitched in. How it's assembled, I put the facings on and then side seam it. So I've got 2 front and back sections of dress completely ready, finished, and then I side seam it with the French seam. And actually the French seam worked out quite well. I had to do a 1 centimetre French seam on it instead of a 0.5 centimetre French seam, purely because this was interfaced a little bit thicker, but it worked absolutely fine and you can't see any of it when you're wearing it. So that's the facing, and then they also go up into the neckline. I did make this facing a little bit long, and the top of the gather casing is interfaced. So next time I don't think I will need to do that on this fabric, because it took a little bit of softening around the neckline, so it was not structured, because I wanted all these gathers to be even, and with this interfacing here it just gave a little bit too much structure. So that's what I'm going to do next time. So yeah, so then you do your facings here, and then here is a rolled casing. So basically you roll this over underneath so you can't see your raw hem, roll over again, stitch down 1 line of stitching, and you've got this tube here. And then we have our neck piece. This is what the ties would look like here, and it would normally, I'd wear it in a bow, something like that on the side or down the back. I've worn it before, and that gives some nice little tie details. That tie details is nice if I'm going to have a tie waistband, because it kind of all goes together and make the dress look a little bit more relaxed. So this part around the neckline, this is patterned in a circle neckline, not a long strip. So it got it nice, sitting nice and flat against the skin and then round here. If it was flat, it would sort of like bunch and it wouldn't sit nice and flat. But as you can see there, you can't see it picking up. It sits nice and flat over the shoulder and around the neckline. And that's because I did a curved neck instead of 1 strip of fabric. Yeah, so that's the front. The front looks the same as the back, but it's patterned for the front shoulders, and then the pattern is patterned for the back, and the back is exactly the same. Here we've got some lovely flowing detail. To hem this, it's quite a thick fabric for a crepe. Normally on crepes I might do a pin hem, especially on the gown, because it gives that really nice finish, really thin hem, really lovely and delicate. But instead, because this had a little bit more weight, I just did a very, very small 1 centimetre rolled, like pretty under 1 centimetre, 0.5 centimetre rolled hem, and that gave the same detail without having to go through a pin hem. So that was nice, I was happy about that. So I just put the dress back round the other way, and without the belt, I wanted to show you how it looks without the belt, because it gives you a whole different look. Like a lot more relaxed, a lot more chic, not so much formal, you know, more Grecian looking. Yeah, so I think it looks really lovely. Either way, just a completely different look. And it's not so cinched in. It's like, that's what it looks like cinched in, which is beautiful, or we can have a nice relaxed look. Let me know which version you prefer, the relaxed look or the cinched in version. Thank you so much for watching today's video. It's been really lovely to have you. If you like this sort of sewing content, then please like and subscribe, and also follow me over on Instagram and TikTok, because I do more videos behind the scenes, how I made these dresses, that sort of thing. So it'd be lovely to have you, and I will see you again soon.